You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, we're reviewing match number 14 of the ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023 between Australia and Sri Lanka. And for both Australia and Sri Lanka, this game was a very crucial game in terms of keeping their World Cup hopes alive. And for the other team who would have lost this match, it would have been the end of the tournament for them. For Australia, they bounced back with a very good win by 5 wickets over Sri Lanka. They needed this win to get their World Cup campaign back on track after losing the first 2 games. Whereas with Sri Lanka, they've lost 3 games in a row to start this World Cup, and pretty much their semi-final hopes are pretty much dashed. And for Sri Lanka, it was a pretty ordinary performance in this game against Australia. So we're going to be talking about how this game went down, how Australia and Sri Lanka went about things with bat, ball, and in the field, and where the game was won and lost. So that's on today's episode of the podcast. Let's have a look at the match summary from match number 14 of the ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023 between Australia and Sri Lanka from the BRSABVE Cricket Stadium. Sri Lanka won the toss and chose to bat first. They were bowled out for 209. Kusal Perera top scored with 78, and Adam Zampa took 4 wickets for Australia. Australia needed 209 runs to win. They chased down the runs easily, finishing on 5 for 215 from 35.2 overs. Josh Inglis top scored with 58, and Dilshan Madashankar took 3 wickets for Sri Lanka. Australia won by 5 wickets, and Adam Zampa was named Player of the Match. What were the key moments and key factors from match number 14 of the ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023 between Australia and Sri Lanka? The opening partnership of 125 between Kusal Perera and Pathum Nissanka got Sri Lanka off to a good start and set the platform. Pat Cummins removing Nissanka for 61 sparked the Sri Lankan batting collapse, which saw Sri Lanka lose 9 for 52 and to be bowled out for 209 in 43.3 overs. Sri Lanka's bowling to have Australia 3 for 81 inside 14.3 overs to put Australia under pressure in the run chase. The partnerships of 56 for the 3rd wicket between Mitchell Marsh and Marnus Labuschagne, and 77 for the 4th wicket between Josh Inglis and Marnus Labuschagne rescued Australia and guided Australia to the target of 210. Those were the key moments and key factors from match number 14 of the ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023 between Australia and Sri Lanka from the BRSABVE Cricket Stadium. Let's talk about how both Australia and Sri Lanka performed in match number 14 of the ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023 from the BRSABVE Cricket Stadium in Lucknow. First of all, let's talk about Australia's performance with both bat and ball, and let's talk about Australia's batters and their performance in this match against Sri Lanka. Mitchell Marsh, 52, Warner, 11, Smith, a duck, Labuschagne, 40, Inglis, 58, Maxwell, 31 not out, and Stoinis, 20 not out. And that's how the Australian batters went about things with the bat in this match against Sri Lanka. It was a much better batting performance by Australia, really improved from the first 2 games against India and South Africa. In this game against Sri Lanka, their batting was very improved. They made some improvements, and they were clear to see from the batting performance in the run chase in this game against Sri Lanka. Chasing a total of 209 wasn't going to be challenging for Australia, and it wasn't going to be a difficult run chase. And in the end, they chased down the runs with ease. They were in trouble a little bit early, in trouble at 3 for 81. They lost Warner, Smith, and then Mitchell Marsh ran himself out. As I mentioned, they lost Warner and Smith in the same over to Madashankar. So Australia a little bit in trouble there at that stage of the innings. And Sri Lanka had a bit of a sniff and really put Australia under pressure there. But the middle order of Labuschagne, Inglis, Maxwell and Stoinis stood up, and good partnerships between them 56 for the third wicket between Marsh and Labuschagne, and 77 for the fourth wicket between Inglis and Labuschagne, and also a good partnership between Maxwell and Stoinis, got Australia over the line and chased down the 209 runs to win this game by 5 wickets. So Australia were able to dodge a little bit of a bullet there, and they were able to get over the line in the run chase. I thought Australia showed really good intent with the bat in this game. All the batters came out with good intent, positivity, aggressive approach. We saw that from Mitchell Marsh, especially in his innings of 52. David Warner, we saw that from him a little bit. Marnus Labuschagne did what he needed to do. Josh Inglis was pretty good, 58 for him. He really batted well. And then Glenn Maxwell and Marcus Stoinis finished it off, and they batted well with good intent and good positivity. So that was good to see from Australia. Good to see them being positive and looking to put pressure back on the Sri Lankan bowlers. And it's good to see the Australian batters do that. So it was a pretty good performance by Australia. Still areas of improvement in terms of improving in certain aspects of their batting. But apart from that, they're starting to get back to some sort of their best, which is good to see. And good to see those improvements have been made. So this will give them good confidence going forward into the game against Pakistan in a few days' time. Obviously, good to see Mitchell Marsh score a 50 in this World Cup. Obviously, Warner and Smith missed out, but they'll probably cash in the next game against Pakistan. Labuschagne scoring runs consistently. Good to see Josh Inglis score runs. Obviously, coming in for Alex Carey, very important for him to do his role with the bat. And also Glenn Maxwell and Marcus Stoinis. Good to see them score runs, which is a good sign for Australia. So Australia ticking the boxes off in terms of their batting. And it was a much improved batting performance. Did the basics well. They were in a little bit of trouble, but the middle order stood up and got them over the line to chase down 209. So good signs for Australia with the batting. Let's talk about the bowlers and how the Australian bowlers went about their performance in this match against Sri Lanka. No wickets for Stoinis and Hazlewood, a wicket for Maxwell, 2 wickets for Stark and Cummins, and 4 wickets for Sampa. That's how the Australian bowlers went about their business in this match with the ball. I've got to say it was a much better bowling and fielding performance by Australia. They looked pretty switched on in the field, and they were a much better bowling and fielding unit compared to the last 2 games against India and South Africa. Pretty much that was summed up, really. Bowled Sri Lanka out for 209, so that's a pretty good bowling performance. I've got to say, at the start of the innings, where Australia were bowling up front, the opening partnership that Sri Lanka had of 125 for none, it looked ominous for Australia. Australia looked a little bit flat. They needed a little bit of a spark, and many people thought, oh, here we go again. It's probably going to be like against India and South Africa, and it's going to be a tough day for Australia in the field. But Pat Cummins, his spell, his over, breaking the opening partnership of Nissanka, removing him for 61, breaking that partnership really sparked something for Australia. They really lifted after that. They saw the captain lead from the front, and the fielding and the intensity really picked up, and Australia really switched on, and they put the pressure on Sri Lanka, and we saw that with their bowling performance. And Sri Lanka had a batting collapse of 9 for 52 after Pat Cummins got that first initial breakthrough. From that moment on, they bowled well and fielded well. David Warner took a couple of good catches. Pat Cummins got a run out of Welligay. And, Australia's fielding was really improved. Also, that little rain delay that Australia had during the Sri Lankan innings, I think that was a good time for them just to reassess and what they needed to do. After the rain delay, they came back out and really bowled well and fielded well. And that's the Australian team that we know. They show that good positivity, good attitude in the field, good intensity and aggressive approach, and that's what we saw. And yeah, pretty much it was a good performance. As I mentioned, Pat Cummins' spell, getting those 2 wickets was crucial for Australia. Mitchell Stark did well. Glenn Maxwell got a wicket. Josh Hazlewood bowled okay in times. Didn't get a wicket, but he bowled okay. And I think the one positive thing from Australia to see from this match was Adam Zampa. And for him to take 4 wickets and bowl the way he bowled, obviously battling through some back spasms in this match, good to see Adam Zampa, and certainly it will give Australia a big confidence booster, knowing that Adam Zampa is taking wickets and he's firing. He bowled pretty well in this match. To take 4 wickets will definitely boost his confidence, Adam Zampa. It was definitely one of his best games of this World Cup thus far. Pretty ordinary against India and South Africa, but pretty good against Sri Lanka, which is good for Australia going forward. So pretty much Australia, just like with the batting, they're starting to get things together with the ball, starting to tick off a lot of things on the checklist in terms of their bowling and what they need to improve on. I think the one area for Australia they still need to improve on is taking wickets in the first 10 overs. They struggled to do that again against Sri Lanka. They weren't able to break through and get early wickets in the first 10 overs. So that's something for Australia to look at going forward into the match against Pakistan, is how can we take those wickets up front in the first 10 overs of the power play. So they need to find a way to do that to put pressure back on the opposition. But apart from that, it was a pretty good, solid bowling performance. It was a good fielding performance. It would definitely boost their confidence going forward for the remainder of this World Cup. Let's talk about Sri Lanka's performance with both bat and ball in this ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 match against Australia from Lucknow. And let's talk about Sri Lanka's batters and their performance in this match first. And let's see how they went about things with the bat in this match. Nasanka, 61. Kusa Perera, 78. Mendes, 9. Sakamaria, 8. Asalanka, 25. And De Silva, 7. That's how the Sri Lankan batters went about things in this match against Australia. Sri Lanka's batting in this match was pretty poor. They batted poorly, bowled out for 209 after winning the toss in 43.3 overs. They fell 7 overs short of batting the full 50 overs. After winning the toss, 209 wasn't really a par score. It was well below par and really put them on the back foot. They had a good opening partnership between Pathum Nissanka and Kusal Mendes, really got Sri Lanka off to a good start in the innings. They put on 125 for the first wicket, and they set the platform and foundation for the other batters to come in and really build off that for Sri Lanka. But a batting collapse of 9 for 52, also lost 6 for 31 after the rain delay during the Sri Lankan innings, really didn't help Sri Lanka at all. Once Pat Cummins got rid of Nissanka and broke that opening partnership, it was pretty much downhill there from Sri Lanka. They couldn't handle the pressure being applied by the Australian bowlers. They had no answers. There was poor shot selection, poor decision making, and just really not up to the task and pretty much didn't execute their skills with the bat. And that's why they had a batting collapse, and that's why they were on the back foot. So they missed an opportunity there, Sri Lanka, to really capitalise on that good start, to really put Australia under pressure. Australia found a way to break the opening partnership and cause the batting collapse. And pretty much that's what happened for Sri Lanka with the bat in this match. Nothing much to really speak of about the batting apart from that. It was pretty poor, and they let an opportunity slip with the bat, Sri Lanka. So they'll be very disappointed to let an opportunity slip like that after a good start, 125 for none, and then to have a batting collapse of 9 for 52 after that was a pretty disappointing outcome for Sri Lanka. It was a good opportunity to post a score of maybe 300 plus to really put Australia under pressure, but that wasn't to be. So the batting for Sri Lanka in this match, pretty poor all round. Let's talk about the Sri Lankan bowlers and their performance in this match. No wickets for De Silva, Kururatne, Tikshana, Kumara, a wicket for Weligay, and 3 wickets for Madashankar. And that's how the Sri Lankan bowlers went about their business in this match. The bowling for Sri Lanka was pretty poor. Defending 209 was always going to be a difficult task for Sri Lanka. They needed early wickets, and they needed to bowl Australia out to have any chance of winning this match. Defending 209 was not going to be easy for the bowlers, and it was going to be tough. But they struggled to keep the pressure on Australia throughout the whole bowling performance. They had Australia 3 down for 81 at one stage, in trouble early in the run chase. That was all thanks to Dilshan Madashankar. He got rid of Warner and Steve Smith in the same over, got the ball to swing in the air and nip off the pitch. He was pretty much the best bowler that Sri Lanka had in this bowling performance. 3 for 38, his figures at the end of the day from 9 overs. So he caused the early panic for Australia in terms of them in the run chase and picked up the wickets of Warner and Smith, who were key in that over. Apart from that, Sri Lanka couldn't keep the pressure on, and they weren't able to build the pressure, take wickets at regular intervals. Their bowling, Sri Lanka, in this World Cup has been pretty poor and weak. It's pretty much depleted with injuries. They're missing key bowlers. Obviously, before this World Cup, they had injuries to key bowlers like Hasaranga, etc., which really depleted their bowling stocks. And their bowling attack wasn't really up to it in terms of applying pressure to Australia. So they struggled in this match here with the ball. As I mentioned, Madashankar was probably their best bowler in this performance. Welligay got a wicket, but he didn't bowl well. Tikshana, quality spinner, didn't really have an impact with the ball. Lahul Kumara went for runs, leaked runs. So it was pretty ordinary from Sri Lanka in terms of the bowling. It was pretty patchy, pretty inconsistent. So nothing much to add on about the Sri Lankan bowling performance. It was pretty ordinary in this match against Australia. Let's preview both Australia's and Sri Lanka's next matches in this ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023, talk about their chances of winning their next game, and talk about the potential challenges and the potential 11s they may select in their next games of this World Cup. We'll start with Australia. Their next match is against Pakistan. That will be on October the 20th, and that will be at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru. And Australia, coming off a good win against Sri Lanka, will definitely boost their confidence going into the match against Pakistan. Obviously, they're back on track in this World Cup. They'll be looking to win 2 from 2. Pakistan coming off a very bad loss against India recently and looked a little bit vulnerable in that match against India. So no doubt this game against Australia and Pakistan will be a good game. The M. Chinnaswamy Stadium's a good ground for batting. A lot of runs are scored there. It's a small ground. It's a good pitch. So we may see a high-scoring match in that game. For Australia, it's important just to keep doing the basics with the bat, with the ball, and in the field. If they can back up the performance here against Sri Lanka, going into the match against Pakistan, then I think they're a good chance of winning their second game on the trot. So for Australia, very important to keep doing what they've been doing and make sure they're consistent and backing up the performance from the game against Sri Lanka to the game against Pakistan. In terms of the potential 11, they will select the same 11, I think. The 11 that they've had for this game against Sri Lanka is definitely their best 11. So I don't think they'll make any changes to the plain 11 whatsoever. So the potential 11 could be Mitchell Marsh, David Warner, Steve Smith, Marnus Labuschagne, Josh Inglis, Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, Adam Zampa, and Josh Hazlewood. So that's Australia. Let's talk about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, their next match is against the Netherlands, and that will be in Lucknow at the BRSABVE Cricket Stadium. That will be on the 21st of October. And for Sri Lanka, they haven't won a game in this World Cup yet. They've lost badly to Australia here. They've lost their first 3 games of the tournament. They've lost players due to injury. They've lost their captain, Dashun Shanaka, for the whole tournament because of injury. And Kusal Mendes has now taken over as the skipper and the captain of this tournament. Sri Lanka, it's going to be a tough challenge against the Netherlands. The Netherlands are coming off a very good win over South Africa by 38 runs. And it's not going to be straightforward for Sri Lanka in that game against the Netherlands. Obviously, the Netherlands, as I mentioned, coming off a good win against South Africa. So for Sri Lanka, their bowling is heavily depleted. It's struggled. Their batting has been good at times, but as we saw in this game against Australia, they've had a batting collapse and they pretty much, really struggled. So I think for Sri Lanka going into that game against the Netherlands, they need to do better with the bat and with the ball and also in the field to win that game against the Netherlands in Lucknow. Obviously for Sri Lanka, if they can win, that it will definitely boost their confidence. But it's going to be a tough game. The Netherlands are up and about. They've got their confidence up because they had a really good win against South Africa. And you wouldn't put it past the Netherlands to beat Sri Lanka. But for Sri Lanka, it's going to be a tough game for them. In terms of their potential 11, they could keep the same 11 that they had for this game against Australia. So Nasanka, Kusu Pereira, Mendes, Sakamaria, Asalanka, De Silva, Weligay, Kururakna, Tikshana, Kumara, and Marashanka. My final thoughts to finish up our review of match number 14 of this ICC Cricket World Cup for 2023 between Australia and Sri Lanka. For Australia, it was a very dominant performance in terms of the batting, bowling, and the fielding. For Australia, they needed to win badly to get their World Cup campaign back on track. They certainly did that against Sri Lanka, and hopefully this confidence booster of a win against Sri Lanka will definitely boost their confidence and spirit, and hopefully they can put in good performances for the remainder of the tournament and potentially qualify for the semi-finals after starting this tournament 0-2. For Sri Lanka, it was a disappointing performance. They batted well, good opening partnership. Once that was broken, they had a bit of a batting collapse. The bowling was pretty poor. It's their weakness, and they really struggled. So for Sri Lanka, 0-3 to start this World Cup. It's a bit of a tough start for them, but if they can get a few wins to finish off the tournament, that will definitely boost their confidence going forward. Just to finish up, very good performance by Australia, much better in the field and with the ball, good intensity, good attitude, good body language. The batting was better. Good to see key batters scoring runs in the middle order, really standing up after Australia lost a few early wickets up front in the run chase. So good to see Australia really do better in this match against Sri Lanka. For Sri Lanka, very disappointed performance. They'll be disappointed. They had an opportunity to perform well here in this game against Australia, but they weren't able to do that. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the podcast today. Before we go, make sure you stay tuned for more ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 episodes and live streams on the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. If you're watching or listening to this episode of the podcast on our YouTube channel, let us know your thoughts on this match between Australia and Sri Lanka in the comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.